Hello and welcome to the September 1st edition of the TetraCast. My name is Zach Reese. I'm the host. Joining us today are Simon.
Yo, what's up?
And also joining us is someone who only appeared once before, but will be joining us hopefully for many more times, Adam.
Hey.
And of course, we have David.
How's it going? Yeah,
You sound tired.
I am tired.
Feeling tired?
Yeah.
Feeling worn out? Too many video games?
You know what I'm tired of?
Too many everything. That's my life.
I'm tired of not being able to log into Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah.
Good segue.
Aren't we all?
No, not a segue.
It's not a segue because we're not going to talk about that until later. There's a lot to talk about with Final Fantasy XIV, and of course we will be spending a good chunk of time discussing that. But of course, first off, what we want to do is, we have two big titles that we like to discuss today. The first one we'll be going over is Tales of Xillia, which Simon had a chance to review earlier this month. Well, actually, last month, I guess now, since it's September 1st. My timeline's way off now.
Month.
Yeah, so, of course, yeah. So, Simon, what did you think about that game after reviewing the import version for us about a year? I think it was a year ago? 2 years ago, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was like a year and a half ago. I thought it was pretty good. I thought the localization was solid. Like, the script is really good. I was actually surprised at how well the translation was done and, like, how they adapted certain things. The voice acting is also pretty good. My main problems with it between the two versions was that for some reason the U.S. version ran crappier, like frame rate wise, to the Japanese one. Like it was slower in places that it wasn't slow before, and someone pointed out to me like they changed up certain parts, like where Agria was flipping someone off.
Spoilers.
In the Japanese one, well, okay, it's not a spoiler.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's in the Japanese one, but she doesn't flip someone off in the English version. So
that caused the frame rate issues?
and I guess so.
So I destroyed the engine.
But that's like the least of like, I don't even know if that's really consider worth censoring because there's like stuff worse than that.
Yeah, there was plenty of innuendo in some of those skits.
Yeah, not even in the skits, like some of the side quests and crap. Like I don't understand like what was going on when they decided to change it. But yeah, Namco was really nice to send us a review copy, so we had that like. We had our first video review out and everything like that. It was nice. I like the game a lot. I think it's one of the better JRPGs for this generation. And the franchise has been very consistent overall throughout the generation, unlike certain monumental franchises in this industry, Final Fantasy. So, yeah.
Yeah, when Tales of Vesperia came out early in the generation, it's generally well received, I think.
Yeah, it was really good, too.
It's very good. But then after that, in the West, we were kind of left, alone by Namco. I mean, we got like the Tales of the Abyss port on 3DS.
The franchise was a mess.
Well, it took a while for us to get Tales of Grace's F, and then
it took 2 years.
We got that last year, and that had some really good things going for it, like its battle system. And then ever since then, we're getting Xillia, or we got Xillia last month.
Yeah.
And then we're getting the remake or the port of Tales of Symphonia, and then we're getting
Dawn of the New World.
Yeah, and Xillia 2 next year. So it seems to be a kind of a solid pace that we have going now.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens with whatever upcoming title they're working on, which
Link?
Not Tales of Link.
No, that's coming over. That is definitely not coming over.
But
I'm
anyways,
just that they announced. I'm so shocked that they announced Xillia before the sales number for Graces came out for both regions, and then they announced Xillia 2 before sales number for Xillia came out. Like,
how did Graces do anyway?
Not so hot.
Yeah,
it was like.
Not surprised.
I want to say it was like 50K.
Think Xillia is going to do better?
Yeah, Xillia will do better. It had much marketing.
Oh, cool. It had a lot more marketing, at least to what I saw. And anyways, just to get back on talking about Xillia specifically, I do think it was quite a solid game all around. As Simon said, I think the localization work was pretty competently done. It definitely boasts, I think, some of the more consistent plot line throughout it.
Yeah.
Some of the other Tales games, they throw kind of these oddball twists at you, and it almost feels like it's just there to extend the narrative. Where I think Xillia, it's definitely a shorter title, and I think that actually helped it in that regard.
That's less filler plot lines and everything. That's all relegated to like side quests and stuff like that.
It's written by the Team Symphonia guys, right?
No.
Oh, it's not.
It's kind of, those teams don't really kind of exist anymore. It was kind of
that's right.
Yeah, they did go bankrupt for a while.
Yeah, didn't like Team Symphonia and some other team merge for
What happened was that there was Namco Tales Studio, but then they consolidated that under Namco Bandai Games.
Yeah, so now that team does no longer exist the way it did back then.
I want to say the team, like the main guys who headlined the Xillia project were the Tales of Hearts people. So like.
Oh.
That should give you like some reference. So it's like a mix.
The game that never came over here.
So yeah, it's a little different, but like as Adam mentioned, like it's very cohesive. Like, and it's like it doesn't dilly dally. Like maybe in the first chapter it does, but
it does take a little bit to get going as it's introducing the characters and things. But that's not a problem only with Xillia. That's
Yeah, one of the things I've really had fun with, and a lot of people compare it to Greece's a lot, is the combat system and say it's inferior. But I really like Xillia's combat system. It stands on its own in a different light.
I love the Xillia combat system.
Yeah,
there's so many options in battle. My biggest problem though is it's so easy.
Yeah.
I played on moderate. I played on moderate when I had to review it. I'm not sure.
I'm playing on hard right now, and there's like still not much challenge.
The bosses will get annoying later on hard, but they're...
One of my... Go ahead.
I got something to say. Does Mila have a lisp? I can't tell.
No,
it kind of does have a... It kind of does sound like a little bit of a lisp.
But it's not her. It's not her. It's the audio quality.
Okay, because I watched a video of her voice actress, and she sounds perfectly fine, but in the game, she sounds like she has a lisp.
Yeah.
So, it's just something I noticed. Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't say the game is particularly that easy. I think it's still fun hitting trash mobs and stuff like that in the game. What did you think, Adam?
Well, my favorite part about the game, and this isn't true just of Xillia, but kind of with most games, are boss fights. And one of the reasons being is that they are actually more difficult, and you can't really just pound your way through them like you do with regular battles oftentimes. And sometimes you actually have to think about what you're doing. And I played it on whatever the difficulty was, one above the normal.
Yeah,
most
moderate.
Of the time.
Yeah.
I turned it down for some of the post-game stuff, but for the most part, I played it on that moderate difficulty. And it definitely is not a difficult game, but I think some of the bosses are, I think they're decently balanced, which was a little bit surprising because I had heard a lot of criticisms about the bosses before I played it. But it ended up, they might be one of my favorite parts of the game.
So I want to bring this up is that the last two Tales games I played was Tales of Grace's F and then Tales of Legenia before that. So it's been a number of years before I ever played it before. I reviewed that game for RPG Site, to be honest. But
very good.
I personally liked it. I like the music. The music.
Oh yeah, the music's solid. The music's probably the best in the franchise, probably.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe.
But once again, it's not like I've played a lot of those games, so I can't really compare it to anything. So my personal experience with it. But when I played Tales of Grace's F, because we were talking about the combat system, it felt like some of the other games I've played. So I wanted to know, what exactly, comparing Tales of Xillia's combat system to Tales of Grace's F, what is Tales of Xillia's combat system like?
I don't really think they're comparable, honestly.
The problem is that the auxiliary systems that make up Grace's system is so much better than Xillia's. The growth system is titles in Grace's F, and it really allows you to customize what skills you want to prioritize, what stats and stuff like that. In Xillia, it doesn't work like that because the Lilium Orb is sort of a broken system that gives you the illusion of choice when
it's a sphere grid.
Yeah, it's a sphere grid. It's a shitty sphere grid is what it is. It gives you that illusion of choice, but it's not really. That choice is just pointless by the end.
I think.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Could you explain a little bit about Tales of Xillia's combat system, though, specifically?
What do you want to know? How it works in battle?
Yeah, exactly. Because I've heard that it's a new twist on their old combat system. What exactly is it about?
There's linking
Someone
and
doesn't played it before.
I think Adam can better explain. I think you're talking about specifically TP and AC in regards to that.
Well, in Tales of Graces, you don't have TP. You have, what is it, CC?
Yeah, capacity.
And you have regular skills and you have special skills. I think they're called Alpha and Beta.
Yeah, Alpha and Beta arts.
And you basically, Tales of Graces, the battle system kind of revolves around linking as many of these skills together as possible. And I think that's one reason why a lot of people like it is you can chain up these kind of really long combos. And the better you are at dodging their attacks, the enemy attacks, which will give you more CC, the longer you can build up these combos. And it's all done at a pretty rapid pace.
Yeah, and CC replenishes really fast too. You're not limited at all.
Yeah, so you can essentially do nearly limitless combos if you are a good player, which is one.
I'm just like backflipping away from monsters. That's like I didn't even pay attention to the combat. I was like backflipping all over the place, casting spells. It was like the funnest part.
Now, Tales of Xillia kind of brought some of those elements. You have a counter, I forget what it was called, AC.
Assault counter, yeah.
Yeah, and that counters how many attacks you can do, both regular attacks and art attacks. This time, art attacks do take TP.
So you're limited by 2 resources this time.
Yeah, so you can't spam your most powerful art attacks, or else you're going to run out of TP. But anyways, you do have this counter that starts somewhere around 6, and there are ways to increase it with skills and whatnot, and you can gain this AC by, just like in Graces, by dodging, at least for some of the characters, temporarily. And so you can kind of build up these combos as well, but not nearly as limitless as the Graces system. And also, it's just kind of, it's slightly slower. I don't want to say it's like,
I think mid game it's slower. I think by the game's end, if you're like playing certain characters, like it gets really fast, but like at the end game.
Yeah, so it does share some similarities to it. And then, of course, on top of all that is the linking system, where when you link with another character, some of your skills that your playing character has will kind of be doubled onto your linked character and vice versa. So it does, first of all, it powers up your stats when you're linked.
Yeah. And your link partner does special abilities.
Yeah, and like, for example, if your link partner is Leia and you can knock down the enemy, Leia will steal an item, or if your link partner is Mila, and you, I think if you stun the enemy, Mila can kind of hold them in that stun, so you can attack them relentlessly. And each character has like a link ability that they will do if you are linked with them. Yeah. And then on top of that, of course, we have this bar that you fill up for linked arts, where certain art skills that you do, as if you're linked to a certain character, will perform kind of a dual art between the two of you. And once you do enough of these, this is how you get to the over limit that's common in all Tales games, where you can spam skills.
Just go nonstop.
But you can
multiple period of time, and of course do mystic arts once you obtain those.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
There's a lot of like systems revolving around like Xillia's combat. It's not empty at all. Like it has a ton of stuff to do.
Oh yeah.
A couple of small things I wanted to point out as well that Xillia did that wasn't in other Tales games, and they're small things, but I quite liked them. First of all, you can save anywhere with the quick save.
But you only get one save file. It doesn't make sense.
It's only one save slot, but I still think it was nice to be able to save anywhere, at least.
And the save slot doesn't delete either. After you load it, it doesn't delete, which is really nice.
Yeah, so it's not like what some games have with like a suspended like save where you save temporarily and load it.
I thought Graces had a quick save.
No, Graces did not have a quick save.
Never mind then, huh?
And then also
don't know how I feel about that.
And also you can switch characters in and out of battle readily, easily.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. Like that's probably the most underappreciated feature.
Is there like a cooldown or anything like that?
No. But your character has to be alive. That's it, and be able to be controlled. But other than that, like you can.
Does it waste a turn or anything like that, or? I guess there's no real turns in that game. It's just nonstop. I'm thinking of other games. Sorry.
Yeah, it's really nice because in the middle of fight, you're like, oh crap, this character is not doing what I want it to, or not doing enough damage or utility. You're like, okay, I'm gonna switch out. So like one of the boss fights, I had to go against someone who is weak against water, and then he was resistant to fire. I'm like, okay, Alvin, you're not cutting it. I'm gonna switch you out for Rowan because I know that you're gonna do a lot of water-based damage, and I can do link arts, which do a ton of water damage as well.
And also, certain enemies, just regular random enemies, they'll actually have, kind of a chosen linked character that is good against them. They'll actually even marks it in the little info box, like this link. What does it say? Like,
I have no idea. I forgot.
It says like preferred link partner, and it'll actually show like if you're fighting this enemy, and usually if it's like a turtle enemy or a crab enemy, it actually shows a little icon of Alvin's face, because Alvin as a link partner can break guards easily. So you can kind of it makes that kind of works with the switching mechanic where like, oh, I'm fighting these guys. I didn't have Alvin in my party, but I can really easily switch him in while I'm fighting these guys. So it's not a hassle at all to do that.
Yeah, it's really nice. I like that a lot. It's becoming like consistent. Yeah, you don't have to use it. Like the option is available, but like if you want to be a good player, like in the arena, like you're not set with only 4 players that you're going into the arena with. You're actually going in with 6 players, and you can just switch them on the fly. It's really nice.
The third thing I wanted to bring up in terms of a small difference that this game has is you can literally warp to any position in the game, like in any town, or in any
fast travel.
Any town or any explorable area. But not only that, you can go to any entrance to any explorable area. So it's once you've been to a place, you really don't ever have to travel there again. You can just click a button on the right stick and there you are.
Yeah, and the game's also short because you're using it so often, depending on what point.
I heard there's like, it seems like it'd be good for anybody who's trying to 100% the game, but I heard there's like, is there like a ton of collectibles and stuff like that?
Yes, there is. So like, that's one of the main problems I had with the game is that a lot of the collectible stuff is in big open areas that feel really empty. Like, all it has is loot and monsters, and like all the places look the same, and it's extremely annoying to go through them again and again. Because the thing is, like this is like, I want to say about 50% of the maps or more are like these same looking areas. It's ridiculously bad.
Yeah.
So that's the big knock then. I
mean, I don't know.
I've heard some words that have been thrown around is that it's the Final Fantasy 13 of Tales games. Now that's a pretty vague statement, and you can
that doesn't say a lot.
That can mean a lot of different things depending on who you are. But I think one way in which you can sort of validate that is like you basically, in terms of the structure of the game, you go to a town area, there's some event, then you go into some explorable area, and they're all kind of the same shape and size, generally speaking. And then once you go through the explorable area, there might be a little bit of a dungeon area, which is like the Sea Falls or a fortress or something. And then you go to the next town area, and there's another event, and it kind of repeats that 3, 4, 5 times. And it's not an exaggeration when Simon says that all the explorable areas look the same, because they really kind of do. It's just like, oh, this one just has snow, or oh, this one is a desert, but
this one's colored orange, and this one's colored green. And
that sounds like Tales of Grace's F.
No.
That's what I got. It felt like it was a very thin.
Tales of Grace's F was extremely linear, but I would say like each environment looks unique.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against a linear game at all. I mean, there's plenty of games that I can call from my childhood that I loved that were linear. It's just that, like, I keep thinking it's because like the fact that it's a port from the Wii that it wasn't able to open up like I'd wanted to.
Well, no, it's not that. It's just visually, it's all the same. So you're like sort of drowning in monotony.
Wow, you're really selling it.
And in terms of like exploration and secrets, there isn't much at all. It's just kind of like, oh, there's chests behind this tree here, or
there's crawl through this hole.
Yeah, there's these holes you can crawl through, and there's like 3 or 4 per area, and they're
like
always
obscure
the same.
holes. Where why is this hole here? Is this like, are children playing in them where Field of Monsters? It makes sense.
It actually kind of reminded me of the holes in like an N64 Zelda game, where it's just like
Ocarina of Time.
It's just like they're just kind of scattered throughout, and there's always like a chest in them. But that's really it when it comes to like exploration and secrets. It's basically just kind of wandering around these wide areas, finding these chests and finding these holes, and that's pretty much it. There are a couple of secret areas in terms of optionals. Like there's a mine area that's totally optional. And then
which
there's
learn more about through side quests and stuff like that too.
Yeah, and we'll get to side quests in a second because they are done a little bit differently. But there's like a mine area, and then there's a later game area that's a secret. But I think there's really only about 2, maybe 3 of them. So I think when people say it's when some people say, not everyone says it, that it's like Final Fantasy 13, I think that's kind of what they mean is you kind of just go through from town through area to town through area. And
well, not only that, I think there's a lot of character parallels between sort of like 13 and Xillia in ways, because like both of them feature or like try to market like a very strong like female lead, which wasn't really seen in the franchise. I guess, okay, Terra counts in Final Fantasy VI, but whatever. Like, it wasn't seen in the franchise. Like, both came out relatively around the same time, and then they focused on this aspect. So, like, in that respect, I would say it's very closer. It's very close to Final Fantasy 13.
It's just because they have a female lead?
No, I mean, they act pretty similar. Like, both of them are pretty cold-hearted, sort of, like,
fake. Just
kind of emotionless.
Yeah, kind of emotionless robots.
Yeah, but Mila's like a child learning to like understand human emotion. Lightning is a hardened.
She wasn't made that way.
I think there's a big difference there.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
So do you think that like before we get to the side quest, because I know you wanted to, I was going to say, do you think that with like some of these recent games that they're putting that adventure and exploration stuff to the back in favor of the story?
I just think that they didn't know how to do it. I think part of it was that this game featured what's it called, manually controllable camera, which the series hasn't done before. So they were trying to figure out how to make something look visually amazing, and they did that well in the towns. But when it came to like explorable areas, they just didn't have the, I guess, manpower or a creative vision to create like an architecture that's visually appealing. Like, I don't know what happened at all. Like what do you think, Adam?
Well, in past Tales games, specifically Symphonia, Abyss, and Vesperia, there were quite a few dungeons, the general term for dungeons, that have some sort of, gimmick to them or some sort of puzzles that you have to solve as you go through them.
Yeah.
Symphonia had several in the different elemental temples, for instance.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Now, Xillia has a couple of them. There's like some block pushing in Fort Gondala.
But there's like none.
But that's like it. There really isn't. When you're the few, not talking about the explorable kind of field areas, but the few kind of dungeon areas there are. Like I'm thinking about like Fort Gondala, and I'm thinking about the one ship they go on. There's not really any puzzle to them. It's just kind of walking around corridors trying to find your way. They're a little bit maze-like, perhaps, but not really.
Which gives you a map, by the way. I think the lore that gives you a map.
Yeah, they give you a map, so it's not difficult, but it does kind of lack that kind of sense of, well. I'm not saying that every RPG has to have like these puzzle elements to their dungeons, but
God no, like Final Fantasy X.
There's no difference of pace. You're doing the same. You're following the same routine steps.
You're just kind of killing enemies in an area as you try to find the exit. You're not trying to solve. How do I
escape from this place
complete this dungeon? It's just kind of how do I get to the end and how many enemies do I have to kill before I get there? And that's how it was. But I do think Xillia, your question earlier, Zach, about story and all that, Xillia does definitely focus on the plot and the characters more than other games.
Some people love that. They want that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's been a while since I played some of the other games, but it felt like to me that Xillia had more prevalence of cutscenes. In terms of
everything was cinematic compared to like.
And I'll get to that in just a moment, but there's just more of them more often and longer, I think.
Mm-hmm. Not even skits. Like
just a lot of scenes with people talking. The Tales games have a lot of that, but I think this one even more so. There's quite a few cutscenes. But getting to what Simon was going to talk about, the cinematography, I guess, of these cutscenes is a lot better. Other Tales games, you have these character models kind of just standing there, and then they'll have dialogue.
One big camera with a dialogue box.
Yeah, there'll be a fixed camera, and then there'll be a dialogue box that pops up as they talk, and then the character model. The character model will have some sort of animation. Usually,
emoticon bubble from Vesperia, like that smiling emoticon or something dumb like that comes up.
Yeah, and they'll have like some sort of canned animation that they'll have repeated, by the end of the game, hundreds of times it feels like. But Xillia,
the camera's always moving around. The camera's always moving.
Started in Tales of Symphonia 2 actually had a number of scenes that were
that's true.
Where the dialogue isn't in a text box, but it kind of runs along the bottom of the screen, and it leaves
same with Grace's too. Yeah, same with Grace.
And it leaves the characters, the models, open to move as they talk, kind of create more of a cinematic type feel rather than just dialogue boxes being read. And then Xillia, of course, was completely that. There were no dialogue boxes in cutscenes.
Yeah.
And the cutscenes were a lot less awkward, I think, than some of the ones in Vesperia and earlier games, certainly, because it felt more fluid rather than these robotic characters.
You'd say the presentation has been elevated.
Yeah, the presentation, the camera work, I think, like a lot of people don't focus on it. I think camera work needs to be praised a lot because the way the characters look in certain shots and the way certain animation sequences are done. Like one scene in particular, when you're in when you're in the air, when things are going around and there's a fight that breaks out, the camera is constantly moving and giving you different action shots that look really really good. Yeah, so and the thing is the animations that are used in combat are used very well in these cutscenes, which didn't really happen a lot in Graces, and I was really disappointed. So fights look like real fights in these cutscenes, they look really well done.
Yeah, I remember in Graces, it felt kind of weird. It's it was a lot of showy moves, but it felt kind of dry. People doing spin attacks, and it just felt like one guy taking out an entire crowd. It didn't feel that involved. It felt okay, I'm just watching something in front of me. That's it. I'm just kind of mind-numbing action going on.
And did you like the cutscenes, Adam? What you saw? I know you platinumed the game.
Yeah, definitely. It was. I mean, I'm fine with the kind of the dialogue box style of Vesperia, but even though I love Vesperia as a video game, it just sometimes feels awkward when talking about Tales of Vesperia for a second. I remember this one scene in the ice area. And it's kind of like the scene when the character Carol kind of mans up.
Oh yeah. You're finding that Stingray.
Yeah, that scene felt kind of awkward to me, as they're all talking in a dialogue box, and then the monster does some sort of animation, and it kind of knocks Carol away, and he's he's kind of in the air, and it looked really awkward. It kind of just felt awkward as a cutscene.
Yeah. And when they didn't have the animation for it, it would scene black to show, and with a sound effect.
Yeah. And
I know what you're talking about. I have the picture in my head. That seems really weird.
The cutscene has just felt awkward, whereas in Xillia, you don't think about that because it feels natural.
It's fluid. It's very fluid.
It's very fluid. So that's definitely a big plus to Xillia. We talked about some of the things that maybe it didn't do very well, like exploration and secrets, but I think definitely the presentation of it, as well as the kind of this more cohesive storyline, that was definitely the things that Xillia has going for it.
They modernized the franchise. With Xillia, they're modernizing a lot of the things that I feel like JRPGs don't normally focus on.
Yeah, it's probably the way that they feel that the way they can improve, because that's a lot of them feel very traditional, but they're let's see what we can do with this. So, Simon, have you played Xillia 2?
Yes, I played it and I reviewed it for the site. I liked it a lot.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you did. Without getting too much into it, because of course, that game's coming out, people will find out more about it later.
No spoilers.
How do you think did they do anything specific in what we just talked about to improve upon that?
Yeah, cinematography is even better in Xillia 2, which is really surprising. Yeah,
that sounds weird.
Yeah,
sounds good, really. I mean,
yeah, and there's certain fights that break out. The fight choreography is absolutely amazing. I was like, is this a Tales game I'm watching? Am I not watching Final Fantasy or something? It was well done. Yeah, the fight choreography is extremely solid. I would say presentation-wise, the only problem that I had with it is that you're visiting the same. If you got sick of the areas, visiting the areas in Xillia, you are going to die playing Xillia 2 because you're going to visit those same places again. Like, it's pretty bad.
It's a proper RPG sequel, right?
Yeah, and the color palettes aren't, like, super crisp at all. I would say they're sort of rough at times. But everything else, like, in terms of, like, cinematics, presentation, stuff like that, it's much better. It's much better in that respect.
Did they do anything to the combat? I know I heard something.
They removed certain stuff, and I think Adam's going to be sort of sad. They removed that real-time combat party swapping that they had. So you always had 6 players on the fly that you can switch out and stuff like that. They don't have that. You can't switch out you can't even switch out party members after you leave the town. The 4 people.
The 4 people
that you leave the town with. That's the party members you're using until you go back to another town.
Okay, is there? I don't want to talk about too much about Xillia 2 before it comes out, but is there a reason for this?
No,
I mean,
there is no reason.
It's probably because they felt like without the cooldown on the
there is no reason.
Party swap.
There is a narrative reason for one thing. You always have to have Ludger in your party at all times.
Wow.
Yeah, so like
kind of like an old school. Kind of like an old school.
That's like Final Fantasy VII.
So the weird thing is, I'm surprised that you can play as other characters. You just need to have him in your party. The thing is, I don't know why they removed the ability to real-time swap parties altogether. Maybe it's because they didn't want to have people switching Ludger out in battle or something like that. But even then, like, why are you limiting it swapping only in towns? Like, it makes no sense. So
he's always there. Like Ludger, I would assume he's always in your party no matter what.
Yeah.
Why does it matter if he's different in the battle?
I don't know. So it doesn't make sense to me at all.
They can't even do it at save spots?
What do you mean?
You can't even switch out at save spots?
No, you cannot switch out at save spots. You have to
weird.
You have to be in a town or switch out your 3 other party members.
That does not make any sense at all from a design standpoint.
I can't even think of another game that does that. Period. So you can't switch. Only
Xillia 2 takes like 2 steps forward, but it takes like a step back in certain respects. Like it's really weird. But if you like after you beat the game once, I would recommend playing Xillia 2 twice because it's just that good. The story is that good. You can have Ludger out of your party on your second playthrough. So.
I was going to say, I hope Ludger is like a jack of all trades type of character because otherwise he'd be good. I was going to say.
People think Jude is freaking broken in Xillia. If you thought Jude was broken in Xillia, holy crap, this guy is broken in Xillia too. Like he
better be. Tails mains are often broken. It's kind of the exception. It's kind of the exception of Luke, I think. Anyway.
Yeah, Luke wasn't very broken. He was mild. He was tame. Asbel was extremely broken. Like what the hell? I would say like Xillia 2 takes 2 steps forward and a step back. The story is a lot better. Like extremely like I would say this is the best Tales story I would say this is the best JRPG story I've seen past generations. Like,
whoa.
Yeah.
Generation?
Yes. Well, I've heard Aaron, like, I've talked to Aaron multiple times about this. Like, Aaron thinks it's, like, the best Tales story or possibly, like, the best story told this generation.
Whoa.
I think it's definitely possible.
Even more than 999?
For a JRPG. Like,
in terms of Tales stories, I mean, I love, like, Vesperia, but it does kind of, break down a little bit near the end, and
Back 3.
and kind of what I was saying before. A lot of the older Tales games, they don't feel as cohesive, partially due to the length perhaps, but they just kind of take some really weird oddball turns. Mm-hmm. So I liked how Xillia kind of kept focus, or more so kept focus than the other Tales games. So I can definitely believe that Xillia and Xillia 2 as a tandem might be the best Tales story. I can certainly believe that, even though I love Tales of Vesperia, but I really love it more for the characters themselves rather than...
Oh, really? You're going to love Xillia 2 then, because the thing is, like, here, we'll talk about side quests right now then. Like, one of the best things about the side quests in this game is they're so character-centric. Like, a lot of the character backstory is, like, fleshed out through side quests and stuff. Like you platinum the game, Adam. So you know this, like, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
You keep bringing that up. Like, you like the battle, right? You platinumed it.
Well, he platinumed it. I'm surprised he platinumed it. Like, because I don't think I have the drive to platinum Xillia.
I've never platinumed a game, so I know what you mean.
Anyways, for those who don't know, how the side quests work in Xillia are a little bit different than the other Tales games. The other Tales games, you kind of just talk to NPCs at certain times of the game, and then they'll ask you to kind of do something for them or explore some area, get some item. Especially in games like Symphonia and Vesperia, there's not any rhyme or reason to them, and a lot of them are very missable and sometimes kind of obscure because you have to talk to a certain person during a certain
know if that person's going to give you a side quest or not. That's the killer part.
Certain window of time. Whereas in Xillia, and I think Graces did this too, right? Yeah. Where there's actually some sort of indicator saying, "Hey, I have a side quest."
There was a little bit.
Yeah, it gives you a skit. It gives you like a skit. It's like, "Hey, dude, shouldn't you go visit your parents or something?"
Yeah, there was always a skit like trying to follow it. Yeah, remember that.
And Xillia, but all your side quests are actually marked down for you, so you can kind of keep track of them, which I think was a good thing. One thing I didn't like about the side quests was there were side quests in the other Tales games. I think. They actually were kind of extra scenes and extra story, whereas
nothing too much.
Whereas in Xillia, there's a lot of side quests that are, I need you to go out here and kill these monsters.
It's like a fetch quest. It's like a prolonged fetch quest.
Not a ton of them, but there were a lot of them, and also a lot of the side quests in Xillia are not really even side quests at all. There's a lot of side quests that are marked as side quests in your book are really just kind of an extra scene somewhere. Like if you go to this last room of this dungeon again, you'll have a little mini scene, and it's a cool little mini scene, but they count that as a side quest. So when they say there's 100 side quests, go ahead.
No, and some of them are voiced too. Like it's really nice.
Yeah, a lot of them are voiced.
Yeah.
So I think those are kind of nice, but calling it a side quest is kind of odd. Like it's just a scene.
Misnomer.
But so it's when people say,
you don't get anything from it. It plays out. That's
you get a check mark in your book essentially saying, hey, you completed the side quest.
It's 100%.
Speaking of check marks, that's kind of how the title system works in this game as well. And this is how a lot of the trophies are tied to it too.
So bad. In grade. Okay.
Yeah, some of the titles, like in Vesperia, for instance, are like the secret missions where you have to do something special against certain bosses or something like that. But in Xillia, a lot of them are, you had Leia steal 150 times. You had not Ludger.
Really?
You had Alvin break this armor
just counts up.
times.
Yeah.
You had Mila bind this enemy 150 times.
Oh, that's not
arbitrary counting. And these are titles, so when you get a title, you earn a series staple of grade, which allow you to buy bonuses for a second playthrough, but some of them are attached to the trophies in the PlayStation system. But the trophies kind of took a step down, or the titles kind of took a step down from, I think, even Graces, which actually used them for stats, and even games just like Vesperia and Symphonia and Abyss, which they're more kind of like collectibles.
Well, the collectibles in there give you stat boosts too. Like what stat?
I think that was the same on Legendia too. It was a collectible as well. Like you actually grabbed them.
The only game that where titles actually affected your stats outright was Symphonia, other than Graces, where you earn skills and stuff for doing it.
Or maybe no. I guess they give you costumes. Yeah.
What, didn't Abyss affect it as well?
No.
Vesperia and Abyss titles were more just kind of these collectible things you get, like, you did this side quest, you get a title.
But in your book.
And some of the titles had costumes.
Yeah.
But titles in Xillia, they give you grade the first time for that.
Yeah, so you're not marked in battle. You're not, gauged on how well you do in battle and rewarded.
So unlike Vesperia, where you can take Rita and spam blah, blah, blah title wave to farm grade to get as much as you want, you have
to... Use Owen, and just kidding.
Well, the only way you can get grade is to go through these arduous, I have to have Mila bind 450 enemies to get a title.
That's not an exaggeration. 450, I'm pretty sure, is the number that you have to go through, right?
Yep. Or some of them are crazy. I didn't even do it en route to getting the platinum. Is use a link art 4,000 times.
Yeah, I was like, what the?
I ended up. I think you only need 1,000 for the trophy, and I ended up with 1,300 or something. If you want to get this title for grade, you have to do it 4,000 times.
Is it Gale?
I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure my most used link art is Final Gale by the end. Even if I didn't spam it towards the end game, but.
And with that, I think we've hit on most of the main points with Tales of Xillia and the Tales series, kind of a little bit of commentary there. Yeah. Anything else anyone wants to say about it?
Yeah. I think you'll enjoy Xillia 2's. If you like character stuff, I think you'll enjoy it because the breakdown of the narrative is extremely different in Xillia and in Xillia 2.
Well, we have Tales and Symphonia Chronicles hitting sometime early next year.
Is it January?
Early spring.
They said spring.
They haven't decided. Oh yeah, they haven't actually.
But I think it's going to come out in April. I'm pretty sure it'll.
Really?
Yeah.
After the fiscal year?
Yeah. Why not? Why would they release an HD remaster before the?
Well, because they don't have anything else until the end of the fiscal year.
What do you mean?
It's Xillia, right? But when's that coming out? Is that March?
Dark Souls. Yeah, I think Dark Souls is kind of Namco's big focus right now.
Yeah, that's their focus. I think they're going to want to start off with. They're not going to want to put two Tales games in, or like a Tales game at the dead end of the fiscal cycle.
But it makes some money, I mean. And they're also, you're banking off of people's nostalgia versus a brand new,
Xillia 2 will probably come out around the same time Xillia 1 did this year. Maybe a little later.
Yeah, probably.
Not a little.
Late summer.
Late summer, early fall, maybe, sometime around there.
There's nothing really else.
I think it'll be late August or early September is when Xillia 2 will come out, is my guess. But I don't think Symphonia... Well, Symphonia is either going to come out February or April. It's not going to come out in March because Dark Souls in March. But
I don't expect it's coming in March.
Lightning Returns is coming out in February, and I don't think... Do they want to repeat this again? Like, does Namco want to repeat a Tales Final Fantasy releasing on the same time?
Well, it's at the same time. It's like in order to play Lightning Returns, you had to play the other game. So it's like you're working off of that. It's like when two RPGs release on the same day, it's just like when Tales of Xillia came out the same day as Dragon's Crown. They're kind of different games, but they're also like marketed differently as well. So I don't know if that's going to make a big difference. I don't know if they're really considering that.
I think it's coming out in April. I'll stand by the April. And watch Final Fantasy X come out in April now.
No, I doubt they will. I mean, it's April 1st. So
yeah, and that's pretty much the timeline for Tales right at the moment. I think it'll be interesting to know what happens after Xillia 2. Yeah,
well, because you said they trademarked these other titles.
Yeah, so the Mothership title is being trademarked. What happens is Xillia 2 was the exception. What happens is they announce.
What's it called again? It was the Tales of
Zesty.
Tales of what?
Like Zestoria or something, right, Adam?
I thought it was like Bibliotech or something like that. Like I don't know what it was.
There's a lot. They just picked.
They
pick names out of a hat and then use three, and then they just pick one of those three.
Yeah. So what happens is that they do these trademarks and. Like, they'll announce it, like, Q3...
Pull one from each one.
They'll announce it Q3, Q4-ish, like, this year, and then they'll show it off at Tales Fest, and then...
I was going to say, like, Tales Fest.
Yeah, so, like, expect a new Mothership Tales announcement for Japan later this year.
Guarantee it's going to be for current platforms, too, because they already said they're only focusing on the current
The one after will be... The 20th anniversary Tales game will definitely be next-gen. Like, I will eat a freaking hat if that's not true.
Not just any hat.
When is the 20th anniversary? Is it 2015?
Yes. No, wait.
No.
2016.
Yeah, 2016, because I'm Tales of Destiny, PlayStation 1.
No, Fantasia.
I think it would be interesting to see how the locals...
Tales of Fantasia came out before Tales of Destiny?
Fantasia's the first one in the series.
The first series.
I always think Destiny came out in Fantasia.
That great. Destiny's
the first one that was localized.
Destiny was awesome.
Destiny's what
Tales of Fantasia
as well. Like that's what why people like really started like the franchise is because of Destiny.
Yeah, Fantasia until they ported it to the Game Boy Advance. Then it was like they made some changes. It was much better.
No,
but I remember
it's still terrible. No,
it didn't. What did you like about Fantasia?
It was an extremely slow, boring game.
Yeah, it did start off really slow.
It makes Breath of Fire look interesting. No offense to Breath of Fire.
I love Breath of Fire. Breath of Fire 2 had a great opening.
Are you trying to start something here?
Oh, Jesus, what are you doing?
I have very outlying opinions about certain nostalgic franchises in this genre.
In RPGs?
Yeah, no.
Like what?
JRPGs. I don't like...
Want to just go down the line and figure out what games...
I don't particularly like Breath of Fire. I didn't think Valkyrie Profile was very good. I like Valkyrie Profile too. I don't like... I guess.
You want to fight?
Relate with that.
Oh, let's go.
I also did...
What about Illusion of Gaia?
I did not like Final Fantasy VI. Contrary to...
You're a jerk.
You're not.
Go away.
Final Fantasy VI is one of the greatest
I think
RPGs
Final
ever
Fantasy
made.
V is the best Final Fantasy out of 1 through 6.
You think it's the best?
I think it's the best Final Fantasy out of 1.
Oh, you're going for the dark horse, I see.
What? Final Fantasy V is so beloved, like, by...
What? No, it's the dark horse. It's like, it didn't even come over here, so how could it be so beloved? People had to, like, go back and get it on the PlayStation and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. It's people, like, it had a cult following and all that, but I don't think
I also think, like, my favorite Final Fantasy of all time is also, like, one of the... I think people dislike it a lot, like... I love 8. It's my favorite, but a lot...
Oh!
Yeah.
God,
I love 8 too, but do we really want to do this?
No, we don't...
The typical internet Final Fantasy Godwin Law. I don't know what it's called.
We're not going to go too much into it.
We can talk about the newest one that came out recently.
Newest Final Fantasy?
Which one is that?
Yeah, it's called A Realm Reborn, because remember that first one died.
Oh, yeah.
In a fiery pits of hell.
Yeah, so Final Fantasy XIV finally launched this past week. Well, launched is subjectively speaking. So
it's still in fucking beta, is all I can tell. At least trying to log in.
Yeah, a lot of it has to do. They talked about it before that it has to do with server capacity, not because
this shit coming. Like, do they like?
No, they couldn't have.
What? Okay.
Because like, how would they know that Final Fantasy XIV and When Reborn, compared to how it happened last time, that they would get this many people playing at once?
I don't think it's a matter of this many people. I don't think they just designed the infrastructure properly enough for them to actually like. This is a fucking MMO launch. Like, launch is always going to be like hell. They should know. They should have seen. They should have seen this shit coming. It's not like this is the first time they released 14. Damn it.
Well, 14 launched pretty poorly, and they didn't get that many numbers.
Not launched.
It had a good following in Japan, but in America, it actually didn't do that well, even off the bat.
When did the original 14 launch again? Was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
It was
3 years ago.
It was a while ago. Yeah.
It was
they started developing on the When Reborn back in early 2000.
It was 4 years ago that 14 came out. No, I'm pretty sure this came out in 2009.
No, it was 3 years. Because it came out the same year as 13.
13 came out in March, but yeah, in Japan, the same year, exactly.
No, I'm pretty sure this came out 2009. Hold on, let me check.
Nope.
Never mind. Yeah, you're right. This came out in 2010.
Yeah, because they said they started developing
in 2010. You're right. This
Square Enix has been working on this for a long time.
Yeah.
Dude, this is a fast MMO development. Like, I'm actually shocked at how fast this shit has been developed. 3 years.
And it's amazing what they've been able to accomplish. A whole new story, a totally different combat system, completely new map design. Like, a lot of it's hand drawn, and it's like they completely took out one of the biggest problems about 14 is that just like kind of World of Warcraft and stuff like that, a lot of copy paste going on in this game.
Whoa! Hey!
No, they even said that. It's World of Warcraft. A lot of the realms are a little bit of copy. The early World of Warcraft I'm talking about. Not like later on, of course, when they added content, they built it up. I'm talking about like back in the early.
You still do a shit ton of running in this fucking game, like a fuck ton of running.
But there's a lot of different things, like you can teleport to your different.
It costs a fuck ton of money.
You start off with like 15,000 gills. So
Wait,
it's like,
no, you don't. That's a lie. That is a lie.
I started with that.
15,000? You do not start with 15,000. I did not.
I started
15,000.
I don't know if you used it all during the betas or something like that. I don't know if you start. I think it was after the.
Okay. Well, you do. If you're a launch member, you do not start with 15,000. That is.
Maybe it's the pre-order.
Didn't Legacy members start with like how much money they had or something?
Oh, I wasn't a Legacy member.
I don't know.
It might be. I don't know. I did not start with 15,000. I know you started with 15,000, but.
Yeah, to be a Legacy member, you had to have been a part of the game 3 months before it actually closed, and so you had to start like in August or something like that.
No, you had to have played Legacy for at least 3 months.
That's what I mean.
Oh, yeah, okay. You said before. You said you have to play before 3 months. It closed.
Yeah, but the 3 months prior to when they shut it down. So I just meant like, at least 3 months. So yeah, and then you get obviously the lower monthly fee and all that stuff too with it. But a lot of it has to do with, as I was talking about, the server capacity. And so what happens is that they have to kind of guess before they even get serious. Obviously, you got to put the infrastructure in place. The problem with trying to build server capacity is that you could easily spend a huge amount of money trying to guess how many people are going to be playing the game at one point.
Yeah.
And so what happens is that they're trying to force it all on launch, of course, but if you overshoot that, what happens is that you end up with a lot of empty space, and then it also means that you spent a lot of money on something like this that could have been better used in some other place as well.
Or you end up with the alternative, which is people can't even make their own characters right now because all servers are full.
Yeah, well, it's the kind of thing they're doing at the staggered release, kind of like Old Republic did. It's so obviously you want at least you can get some people playing right now. If they didn't do anything like that, then nobody would be playing right now. So it's the trade-off that they're facing for trying to push it out.
I don't know what they were thinking. I feel like this is an extremely gross oversight. Like, I understand that they don't want to get too many servers because like subs obviously you scale off after like a couple of months, but still, like, this is an extremely sloppy, and the fact that it's taking this long. They said, okay, what day is it? Today's Sunday.
It hasn't been a week though.
Since
it came out.
It hasn't been a week, and the thing is, this has been perhaps. No. Actually, if you want to talk about it, this has been over a week because we can include pre-order access too. We can talk about early access.
But that's early access, early adopters. You know,
they
if
had
you're going to be playing an
service
MMO,
problems before the game even launched. Like,
so do you think they really underestimated how many people actually logged in, or they just?
Yes. Well, the thing is that they have broken the record for the number of concurrent users for a Japanese company. So they just broke a record. It's 230,000 people playing at once. They beat Phantasy Star Online 2.
Wait, that's more than Final Fantasy 11 ever had.
Yeah, at one point, yes.
Yeah, at one point.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
at one moment, as a concurrent, which means all playing at once.
I think they just didn't prepare. It's not that the fact that, oh, hey, we didn't think this.
I think you probably should give them more credit, because obviously if they're trying to launch
different projects to make this game, of course they better think that this game is going to do fucking awesome. They canceled 12 Square Enix projects. They made this game. It took them a gajillion money. I'm just saying it.
Gajillion money?
It took them a gajillion. It took them a gajillion.
It's a proper metric.
It took them a gajillion gil to make this game, and they thought they weren't going to have as much subs at launch day. What the fuck kind of logic is that?
We're talking about Final Fantasy 14.
This is dumb logic. You're trying to justify dumb logic to me. I don't buy this shit. This is complete ineptitude on Square Enix's part. It's not the fact that, oh, hey, shit, we didn't realize we're going to have this many subs. It's, oh, shit, we totally fucked up because we're really bad at trying to gauge how many people we can have on our servers. Not only that, they said this shit is not going to be fixed until fucking Wednesday.
Maybe they didn't have enough money left.
Well, they also said in response to that is that they're going to be adding they're talking about the amount of time that they're going to add to the free access to the game for another week. They're saying right now it's like an extra week.
What the hell that people have to create fucking macros to log into this damn game?
I just don't. I think it's once again, it's because they have this overwhelming amount of people trying to play the game at once. How could they have expected something like that to happen? They did build a service for that. It's just that this overwhelming demand's going on. And at the same time, this is an MMO. Give it like a week or two, this problem is going to go completely away. Everybody's going to be able to log in. It's no longer something to discuss. Because it's a pain in the ass right now. But obviously they're doing everything that they can at this point in time. I don't think they would have ever wanted this to happen. I mean, we're talking about these guys who poured their blood, sweat, and tears to build an MMO from the ground up practically in such a short span of time. And, you know, they showed all these interviews with Yoshida as like guys breaking down because of like all this, trying to experiencing this after pouring so much hard work into it. I'm not saying it's like, sympathize with the guy, give up everything. I'm saying
they've gone through worse.
They're trying their best at this point in time to meet that demand. I don't think they could have.
This is one of the worst MMO launches I've ever played. It is.
You never played.
Okay. All right. I'm going to use let's use one of the latest MMOs launches. Let's use Guild Wars 2. That shit launched with like problems, but not so much problems as people can't fucking log in or make even a character. Like they
staggered that, didn't they?
No,
they stopped digital downloads.
They stopped digital downloads, but they still had people being able to play. You can't even play right now.
I've been able to play just fine. It's all about
go in and log in right now. You cannot log into this shit. I'm being
like
serious. You can't fucking log into this shit. I've been trying to log in for the past hour.
Settle down, okay?
Simon,
don't need to cuss.
you need
all
to
this.
stop.
It's all right. It's all this massive server congestion, but they already said that they're going to implement the fixes right now. They're talking about like that. They're saying by Wednesday this problem should never happen again. Obviously, that's taking them at their word, and obviously it's not a long time.
Wednesday, that's a week, and that's basically a week and a half after launch. Oh hey.
That's once again they're talking about adding free time. So at a point in time, it's like you're not spending any money for those experiences that was happened. But to kind of get away from that a little bit, because like I said, server problems, it's a pain in the ass right now. I'm not saying it's not. I've had Leviathan is the server I play on. It's full like so much that
they manually close the people that you actually cannot make a fucking character on it, even if you want to, because they manually shut it down.
How many times are you going to be making a character anyway?
Well, I'm just saying like other new customers who wants to play with their friends on Leviathan, they can't.
That's why they stopped the digital orders, and that they're stopping people from playing that.
Dude,
because
they stopped digital orders, and they printed on GameStop receipts saying this game is fucking full. Like, you might have problems playing this game.
It's because if everybody try to jump in and play at this exact same time, no one's going to be able to play. Okay. So it's like they're trying to stagger that.
Okay,
let's get away from that a little bit.
Yeah,
because
I'm someone. I haven't played Final Fantasy 14. Honestly, it's just I haven't really been very interested in it. But all I've really heard about it are all these problems. So I also hear that people really do like the game when they're able to play about it.
Yeah, I love the game.
The game is amazing.
Yeah, describe it. I really don't know much about it.
So, coming from someone who played a lot of Final Fantasy XI and going to 14, it's pretty much Final Fantasy XI itself had a huge difficulty curve. Like, it's a learning curve, I should say, actually. Is that a lot of that, what happened is that you would take on quests and stuff like that, but you had no idea what to do. Like, from that point on, the quest system was kind of messed up, at least early on.
And it was hard to solo the game. You had to, like, always be, like, in a party.
Yeah, the partying was a big part of it. Grinding was a huge part of it as well. Like, you were spending practically years inside of the dunes trying to level up your character. And it was the biggest, like...
pain in the ass.
Exactly. Once you cleared that hump, it opened up a little bit, and it became far more enjoyable. But, trying to get to that point, it's asking for a lot.
Yeah, it's like the first 10 hours of the game, 10 plus hours of the game you're asking for, like, really, really bad, like, MMO experience.
And you have to be in that area once again, and you have to hunt for these items to unlock the sub-jobs. And so it's
really bad.
It's asking for a lot for people to put up with that. But later on in the years, of course, 11, they did some things to make it a lot easier. Like, they introduced the level syncing that's in 14 now, and some of the other features that are escaping me at this point in time. But that was a thing. And also, like, anytime you wanted to change your job, you had to go to the Mog House, which was like always a huge waste of time, because like you would teleport. You can go from the different outposts and stuff like that, but you would still wind up being a little bit of a distance away from your party, and so that you would basically be waiting around for like half an hour for your team member to arrive. Yeah. So, and that's not also to explain areas that are far and away from civilization. So that was a pain. With 14, it's a hell of a lot more approachable. It encourages solo play a lot more than 11 ever did, because 11 came out in like 2001.
FF14 plays like WoW, except the presentation's a lot better. There are certain interesting mechanics and systems in place.
Yeah.
So like, I think one of them that stood out to me was, like in various MMOs there are various classes that you can play. But the thing is, once you make that character, you're stuck with that class.
One class.
Yeah, one
like
class.
11.
Yeah, like 11. Like here, it's actually not like that. What happens is, once you hit a certain point in the game, you can actually go to various other guilds. Each class has a guild. You can visit that guild and you say, hey, I want to become this class. So you can actually you can create one character and be part of every class and level up at your pace. And each class has its own level. So it's a really nice, versatile system. It's like, I only need to make one character and then have, like, I can be an archer and I can be a lancer all at the same time. And it prolongs the length of the game because you're trying to level up that one character.
Yeah, and it pulls a little bit from Final Fantasy Tactics in that you can inherit job traits from these other classes too. So you can use that and build up your whatever you're trying to make right now, a conjurer, a pugilist, or anything like that. So that is easily the reason why I am most fond towards Final Fantasy MMOs, is because that it has the coolest like system like that in place. That's why like before 14. And even when I was still playing 11, like the only MMOs I could really get into was like, I think I played a lot of Ragnarok Online and RF Online. So it's really hard for me to get into online games because a lot of the time their systems are poorly implemented, or they're just boring, or that they're not, flexible. It doesn't give me any, exactly, they're not flexible. Yeah. They don't want me to, it doesn't give me a reason to stick around, and they feel like a drop in the bucket of those games. So
the combat is plays like WoW, but it does.
I haven't played MMO.
Yeah, you haven't played. Yeah, so like I play a lot of MMOs. What's it called? Like it plays like WoW, but if you want to make it closest representation, correlation, I would say it plays like more like FF12. So like except except you don't have a lot of skills, because being an MMO, you actually just get skills as you level up, and you just don't have a lot of them in the early game. But once you hit a certain point, you have all these skills available for your class, and depending on how many other classes you leveled, you can cross over some of the skills. So like I'm a Lancer right now, but I can use skills from
Dragon. It's fine. You can call it Dragon.
Whatever. I can use skills from Marauders. So like you can intermix certain skills from various other classes, and it creates that interesting dynamic of like, oh hey, I can borrow some of the monk's healing ability for my Dragoon, because my Dragoon has shit heal. Yeah,
and that's what I mean, and especially when the combat and stuff like that. That's also a change from 11, is that like I'm a conjurer, and so before in 11 you had to go out and like buy spells or find them off enemies and stuff like that. Here they just pretty much unlock, and so that makes it a lot more manageable, because like you feel your character grow in front of you. You don't have to buy spells and stuff like that. And this is coming from someone who played Final Fantasy 11 to like 2007, and so it could be that they fixed some of those problems. But I'm just going.
I would say that like for FF14, if you don't like MMOs. For typical MMOs, if you don't like MMOs, it's really hard for you to break into the genre. I would say the aesthetics of Final Fantasy XIV makes it a lot more swallowable, like for people to jump in. Because like I know, like I was talking to Erin, like she doesn't really have an MMO background. And I feel like she's the type of person who would hate MMOs. Like, not to judge her or anything, like I'm pretty sure she would hate MMOs.
When she's not here, yeah.
But she loves the death out of FF14, and like I'm a big MMO guy, but I look at this and like, oh, this even regular Final Fantasy players would enjoy this to a degree.
So it's really accessible, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's got a very well. It depends, but I think for me, another big draw is that we were kind of talking about this before, you and me, Simon, is that the reason why someone would want to play an MMO long after it comes out, like if they subscribe for longer. Yeah. For me, I brought up that story. It's because of the story, and it's obviously that's not really
draw for most
a big draw, but for Final Fantasy, that's my draw. And I mean that's the thing where that's why Ragnarok Online and RF Online, the two of the games I didn't mention. I mean, they mentioned that were in Final Fantasy. The big draw was like the look of it and the some of the elements, like in RF Online, you have these large-scale PvP battles. But anyway, and the great thing about Final Fantasy XIV is that it takes a little bit, but there's a very strong single-player...
Yeah, not even single-player. There's just a strong narrative, because...
Yeah, the lore.
Yeah, the world of Eorzea is really, really awesome. Like, there's a lot of interesting stuff behind it.
Characters.
Yeah, interesting characters. I have two main problems with the narrative of Final Fantasy XIV. One of them is that if you didn't play the original 14, it's really hard for you to...
You have to look... There's like books...
Yeah, it's really hard to pick up on a lot of the stuff, because it mentions a lot of what happened in the original Final Fantasy XIV. So like there was the battle of I forgot how to say it. Cataract. Anyway, there was a big battle, and that happened towards the end of the original Final Fantasy XIV, and that's the basis for like the narrative groundwork for A Realm Reborn.
Yeah, if you saw the end of an era trailer, that was Dalamud was I think that's the name of it. It was the media that fell because the Empire, I guess they summoned it, and that's why, like, in the last month or two of the game, that thing was falling. It was the metaphor for the end of Final Fantasy XIV as we knew it at that point. So it's like that. If you saw the trailer, you kind of know what was going on anyway. It's like that's really the end of the narrative. It doesn't. A lot of the characters in A Realm Reborn are from 14, and they played a big part. Even that old guy in the end of an era trailer, he was basically there the entire time of 14. If you played through the story, there's a lot of places you can go to, like on YouTube, where there's people who have actually recorded all of the big cutscenes in 14. Yeah. So if you wanted to, you can go back and experience.
Still, it's not accessible in that regard. Like, it's still easy to pick up, but it's like it's not going to be as meaningful. It's not going to be as meaningful to you. My second problem is that the game's it plays like classical Final Fantasy in that you read text boxes and you see characters do stuff, but there's parts where it's voiced, like most modern games are, but then more than half, I would say 90% of the shit is not voiced. I'm like,
the beginning is not voiced. It's not voiced.
Yeah, and my problem, and the thing is, like, sometimes you'll go to a voice cutscenes, it'll fade out to black, and the rest of the thing is not voiced, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what were they thinking? Like,
there was a character, Milfinia, that I actually am a really big fan of, and that whenever she has this British accent that I like hearing, and then when she's not speaking, I'm like, come on, really? Just hey, it's I know there's about budget limitations and trying to trade that off.
Yeah,
and it's just I wish.
No, not even budget limitations. Like, I don't know. Like, Guild Wars 2, like, all the things in Guild Wars 2 are voiced. Here, it just, like, vocally, it's deaf. Like, this game is vocally deaf.
It makes you wonder, like, if this was the game, if they made it all on, if all their original budget would have gone to it, if it would have been all
it should have been the original game.
Yeah. Well, it goes without saying, because, once again, it's every person, aside from all the server problems, which is a pain in the ass, anyone who's, well, I'm not going to say anyone, I can't speak for all of them, but by and large, it's been a pretty positive response.
Yeah, I think it's a good game. So. I think it's fun. I think there's a lot of, like, questing is fun. Typical, like, different from, like, going to, like, one town to the next, like, picking up quests and doing them. There's fates, which are, like, dynamic events from Guild Wars 2. Like, stuff will pop up in the map, and then you go there and you're going to be interacting with other people while trying to, like, work towards a common goal. So, like, if a beach is infested with crabs, you're going to see a whole bunch of other people, like, trying to clear out the beach with a fuck ton of crabs. Like, it's really fun and interesting. And then you have dungeons, because most MMOs won't force you to do a dungeon to proceed to the campaign, but FF14 does this a lot. I don't know why. It annoys me sometimes. I actually pretty much rage quitted a dungeon earlier today just because this tank didn't know how to freaking aggro for shit.
You left an instance without telling anybody?
Yeah, because this tank, I'm not going to put up with a tank who doesn't know how to aggro shit. Which brings up another problem is if you don't know how to play MMORPGs and you're not familiar with certain, like, traditional roles like DPS, tank, or healer, you're going to have a hard time in these games.
I had that experience too. I did a quest yesterday where it's like I'm the conjurer, so I'm the person healing everybody and protecting them and stuff like that. The problem with I had the Marauder and the Pugilist. Pugilist kept running up to and trying to take, like, different mobs. When the Marauders, like, the Gladiators, over here, like, fighting this crowd, it's like, what are you doing? I'm having a hard enough time keeping this guy alive. And then I had an Arcanist that was, like, running up in front of the enemy, sitting down and casting spells inside where there's, like, they're launching their area of effect spells and stuff like that. It's
rage-inducing. Healer is the most rage-inducing role because he gets to see a whole bunch of dumb people do shit.
It's like, what the fuck are you doing? It's always been like that. But, I mean, even in 11, it was a lot of that, people making dumb mistakes, pulling in, like, way too many monsters at once that you can't. It's like they get mad at you. It's like, how can I keep you alive if you're going to be like this? But that's and the great thing about, we were talking about the quest, is that every single quest, pretty much, in every mission, there's a story there. It's like they actually go into detail. Like, there's actually some interesting, like, stories that they talk about. Yeah. Like, someone who's being stalked. It turns out it's like a lover from her from years ago that's coming back and trying to leave her a guest, stuff like that. She's afraid of the guy, but it turns out this is who he really was. So I think that's what I also.
Everyone should play this game. Like, for at least 1 month, because I feel like it's worth it to play it. Just because, well, obviously, if you don't have a good computer, like it's impossible to play it. But like,
well, the PlayStation 3, but even then, the PlayStation 3, it's obviously that system's gotten
it's pretty
old,
cheap to pick this up. Like, I'm pretty sure you can pick this up on Green Man Gaming for like $23.
$23 if you use the coupon. Yeah, I mean normally it's $30. I think the special edition is like 40.
So I haven't done any of the beta stuff. I wasn't a legacy player. How much is just the normal monthly?
$30 on PC. $30 on PC.
The monthly cost.
Oh, it's $13 if you're just playing it. It's $10 if you're a legacy player, but obviously anybody who's probably
there's a fine print. It's $13 in order to make one character per server, and
and then if you have to pay
$15 per month if you want to have more. But in all honesty, I feel like there's no real reason to have more than one character.
No. In 11, you needed it because it's like once again, it's like you were kind of stuck with
one class.
There's race. The race was like race specific. Like they get benefits from being certain classes. Here, that's not really the case. You can be pretty much any race and pick a class. I mean, I think there might be slight adjustments, but it's not as important anymore. So if you have one character, you'll be fine. You can hire a retainer, which is basically your mule that can hold items and stuff like that. So it's like unless you're trying to go nuts. I don't know.
I think Square Enix is doing something interesting as well. Depending on how many days you're subbed, it doesn't have to be consecutive. If you're subbed for 30, 60, or 90 days and something like that, you get bonuses like you'll get items and stuff like that. Like after the first 30 days, you'll get an item that allows you to, if you don't like your appearance or race or gender or whatever, you can change it. Which I'm looking forward to because I feel like I made a huge mistake.
I like my little dude.
Yeah. So go ahead.
One thing I was just wondering about is current content in the game. Like how I know like Guild Wars 2, what they've kind of been doing the last several months is kind of like this every other week kind of mini update. To like a certain event or whatnot. And I know Guild Wars 2 it's reaching or has recently reached its 1 year milestone where they had a bigger update with their armor classes and things like that. I was just wondering, how is Final Fantasy 14 Armorborn? How do they plan on updating this and keeping things fresh?
Guild Wars 2 is the outlier, I think, in MMO updates because they have various teams working on smaller patches, which essentially amount to big patches by the time by the frequency of like other MMOs. So like 3 months worth of biweekly patches for Guild Wars 2 amounts to a patch in 3 months for a normal MMO. So that's what FF14 is going for with this.
Yeah, the great thing about 14, what they're planning, obviously we're talking about the future here, so it all remains to be seen. But the cool thing is that what they're saying is that in a couple months they're going to release a patch 2.1 is what they're calling it. It's going to introduce the housing system, which is going to be for like free companies, which are basically like the big guilds that people can have it. Yeah, it's some of the stuff runs parallel to some of the other MMOs, but it's going to finally put in the PvP content, which it might be because of the time it launched or something that they couldn't put that in right away. But it's that they're going to add in new dungeons, new story content, daily quest system, and I think they're going to add new primal battles, which is like Ifrit and
summons. They're summons. So they're trying to go for like 30 the 3 month updates, which is like I guess typical for a normal MMO. Like I'd say it's about 4 months. I think they say 3 months. I think it's going to end up being 4 months.
Yeah, but so they were talking about it's going to be significant updates like that every 3 months, and also that they also plan on releasing expansion packs. But they said that they might not be able to do that until like maybe in a couple of years.
I don't think the 3 month patch is a good idea in my opinion. I'd rather have it the Guild Wars style where they just have smaller patches over a period of time than not have a patch until like 3 months later. I feel like.
I think they were talking about significant updates, but they'll still in between that they'll probably release like small content.
Well, like the thing is, like even Guild Wars 2, like they don't seem significant at the time, but it basically amounts to what a normal MMO patch would look like after 3 months. That's the thing. Like it is essentially a big patch. It's just a big patch dispersed out over a period of time is what it is. And I'd rather much have that because then it keeps me playing almost every week. Whereas this, I'm more like, I'll just not sub until the new content comes out. And then once I'm done with that content, I'll just unsub Like, you know what I mean? I don't think it's smart.
Yeah, I guess it kind of remains to be seen what if that's the only time they plan on updating it. At the same time, it's like based on the way things are going, maybe they need that 3 months. But I'd also be curious to see. I mean, obviously plans can change. They can completely go in a different direction later on based on how they react to the first pumps. But and you were talking about the monthly rewards and stuff like that. I think it's that there's promise of this type of content to be pumped out like this. It's obviously very encouraging. I mean, I'm the kind of guy who's like, once I quit Final Fantasy XI, I tried to get back into it, but I couldn't afford to pay the monthly fee and stuff like that. It's like, if they're going to do that, if they're going to put in a monthly fee, I want to know that I'm getting a nice return from it. It's promising. I'm not going to say I'm going to stick with it a ton, because I felt with other games too, but if they keep up and keep coming up with new ideas for stuff like that, I feel comfortable with paying that type of fee if that's what I'm going to get it from it.
Yeah, I guess it just varies on the person. I can't see personally, I can't see it really seeing that working for me. I would get.
Yeah, it's from person to person, really. Obviously it depends on what exactly those major updates contain. And if they're promising more story content, and obviously we both agreed so far that the story part of it has been the biggest draw, then I'm okay with spending a little bit extra money if it means I'm getting hours more of that type of content each month, each major update.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So, I think that's we did talk a lot about Tales of Xillia and Final Fantasy XIV. I guess real quick we can kind of talk about, there's a couple events coming up this month in September. Sony's got Sony's got their event on the 9th. That maybe they'll announce some new projects that they have going on. Hopefully,
for sure it's going to be the PS4 kind of launch details.
For Japan.
For Japan, of course. And we'll see if there's anything with that in terms of what Sony Japan Studios might have maybe been doing. Like they're working on some sort of RPG, right? Like dub.
Yeah, the rumor is that
there's
a Final Fantasy competitor, and they also, I think they have like 3 RPG projects going on. One of them happens to be a Final Fantasy competitor, but they also have Freedom Wars, which I really am excited to hear more about that game.
Rumored Demon Souls 2, apparently.
I heard that.
Demon Souls 2, yeah. They apparently they're working with From Software or something.
Good.
Well, on the side, not that. I'm talking about like on the side. They're also working with From Software on something. I don't know if it's an RPG. They talked about that back at E3, but nothing really. They didn't talk about it too much. And so there's that, and then of course TGS is this month.
I have no hope for this TGS.
You don't think we're going to have any RPGs at launch?
Wait,
so far it's been
next gen launch?
For Japan at least.
Next gen Japan launch? No, I don't think.
I don't think so either.
It's hard to be optimistic.
Yeah.
It's because that they're still focusing on this current gen, obviously, and there's been some great games coming out like years after the consoles came out.
Sony Studios are still doing stuff on PS3 like Rain and Puppeteer.
Yeah, but that's obviously to extend the life. Gran Turismo 6 and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's that's polyphony,
Isn't NAC Sony Studios Japan as well?
Yes, it is.
That and Puppeteer, yeah.
So,
but Puppeteer is this thing.
I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to wrap up all projects currently for this generation, and they're just trying to have, like, it's a soft launch. It's not. I've seen people saying like this is going to be the biggest launch of gaming industry. Like, yeah, I guess like in respect to sales.
Sony
people say that for every launch.
Yeah, I see that in respect to sales, but this is an extremely soft launch because like a lot of these titles that are coming out launch day are not that good. Like
there's
launch
no killer app.
Yeah, there's no killer app.
Like is Killzone a killer app? Wait, is that even launch?
No. Yeah, it's at launch. Killzone is launch.
I think it.
But the thing is, like, a lot of the good games, like, even for the Xbox One, they're coming out, like, spring. Like, the killer app for PS4 is Infamous Second Son. That's not coming out until...
It's a killer app. I mean...
Yeah, I think it's a killer app.
The first 2 weren't.
Infamous original.
Infamous Second Son is being marketed as, like, as the killer app for PS4.
I guess so.
Well, it also depends on what you're looking for. For me personally, I'm huge in indie games, and so there's going to be a ton of those. Not all for 2013, but someone put out like a list of 100 games that have been announced for the PlayStation 4 so far. There have been 100 games announced for that system already.
I soft launch in the respect that there are no hard hitters. Like they're not coming in guns blazing.
Yeah, but then again, that's kind of typical for the launch. It's about and Sony's always promised a big launch, but obviously the biggest problem that they've had, especially with like the Vita, is that the months following it, and so they need. Launch 2013 is all well and good. For me personally, it's that they need to have a strong 2014. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just like when I bought my PlayStation 3 out, it was sitting collecting dust.
I never understood the need for. Maybe I just don't understand marketing for something. Like, I understand that holiday season is a big thing like that. I don't understand why they felt the need to like just release it on holiday season. Like, why can't they release both of these games when they have like really good games out? Ready for launch day.
It's all about the marketing, about everyone's focus is on buying presents, stuff like that. It's like Black Friday. It's about Christmas.
You're not going to
buying.
Yeah, everyone's. I think just people like when they're thinking about buying, that's in November and December, and like and just kind of get caught up in the hype of that. Sony released their new PlayStation, and you can buy this and you can have it for the holidays, and
it's like stocking up before that. It's
I think Killzone, it's not like the most popular Sony franchise by any means, but I think that's a decent launch game for them to have.
Yeah, it looks really good. I really look forward to Killzone.
Yeah, and then Infamous is coming, soon after that, and then of course, the Naughty Dog has to have a game they're working on, and Sony
Santa Monica.
Yeah, exactly. So, if they can get these, it's arguable if Killzone I guess not the best word, but popular launch game that I think that it'll stand well on its own. But I think the strategy that they have is to have something, and then to keep that kind of a steady flow going with games, hopefully.
Yeah, even if they're banking off of old franchises and stuff like that, Killzone Shadowfall is a much different game than the original two, especially the original 3. And so it's obviously banking off of that, but at the same time, it's also that Sony first-party studios. I mean, as incredible as they can be at times, I'm more looking forward to what the RPG developers can create using that hardware. So it's like I really am excited to see what like Atlas can make, what Nipponichi can make, what Level 5 can actually do without releasing some multi-platform social game.
Yeah,
Wonderflick. It's like and of course that doesn't mean that that's all they're making. Of course, even if they announce those titles, it's like they could still be working on something big. They just didn't have the time to announce it. They don't have anything to show for it. So I was like, hopefully a new Valkyria Chronicles for the PlayStation 4.
That'd be nice.
It's probably coming exclusive to the Wii U, and then I'll probably buy a Wii U for that.
Skies of Arcadia, too, is.
Skies of Arcadia, Legend of Dragon 2.
You make me so sad. I love that game.
I never played it.
It's one of the gems of last gen, I would say.
Last gen? Yeah. Is Dreamcast part of that? I guess that.
No, it came out for the GameCube.
It came out for the Dreamcast before that.
Yeah, Dreamcast was the original, and then they made the better version for the GameCube.
Talking about Legends, that is the better version.
GameCube didn't have like sliding characters like running against the floor. It was like they fixed a lot of the problems with that game, but it's random encounters a billion.
I think the PS4 has a stronger, steady stream of games that I'm more interested in than the Xbox One does.
Yeah, it's because for me personally, it's because I got hit hard because when I bought the 360, I saw Blue Dragon and Lost Odyssey. I was like, well, that's okay. You got my attention. Maybe this is Mistwalker saying that they're going to be putting out more games. That's pretty much all they put out so far. They put out that DS game and then that Last Story, which didn't come out until years later. So, like, and also the fact that a lot of the 360 games came out for the PC. Personally, I'm not looking at the Xbox One right now. That doesn't mean I can't look at it later, but I think it's because there's like exclusive partnerships with Sony that I guess I'm moving more towards that. That's the real reason why I'm interested in the PlayStation 4. It's because I based off
for RPGs. I don't think you'll get much argument that PlayStation is probably a better place to look right now.
They'll come out, yes. Exactly. Any RPG, big RPG you can think of, you'll know that it'll come out for the PlayStation 4.
I think it'll just be. I don't expect anything prominent like at TGS at all. Like,
you think
I can't see them announcing anything interesting for next gen. Like even for current, like or saying anything details. Like Square Enix said, like they said they're gonna show FF15 and Kingdom Hearts 3 at TGS. I'm like, do I really expect new info for these games? Like really? Like
it's fine. Just like,
I might get tidbits. It's not actually only boys.
Yeah.
That they'll introduce like the other characters, like that girl with the black hair. They'll talk more about her.
They'll show the ins.
Yeah,
that's it.
Hey, we got HG Towns, everybody.
We'll talk about the sheep.
If there are no brothels in Final Fantasy 15, I'll be disappointed in you, Square Enix.
Okay.
Whoa.
I'm just kidding.
And it's probably also because that they're still trying to use this hardware. We'll probably not see anything. I've been hearing people talk about like these publishers talking about how it's going to be the biggest TGS ever. So who knows what exactly that means. That's what they're saying.
Really?
I'm not saying that I agree with it. I'm just saying that's
what
what
they know something that we don't. Because
exactly. That's what I hope it's just not talking about 15 and Kingdom Hearts. Like that's not
8 weeks
Persona
before
5.
it happens.
Persona 5 will finally be announced, guys.
Not at TGS.
Oh,
it'll be leaked like a week before.
Yep.
That's fine. They usually announce stuff before TGS anyway, so it's okay.
That's why the weeks leading up to TGS will be fun. TGS itself will be... We already heard about this. What
about Last Guardian, guys?
That's
really
not anything anymore.
They did say that Ueda from that Famitsu interview said that they're focused on Knack and Puppeteer right now. Like the other Sony Japan.
This title is so dead.
If it eventually does resurface, it's going to be, I feel, very different than what we remember. Or well,
they were talking about how like
it's not actually a griffin, guys. It's a T-Rex.
Well, we didn't know much about it to begin with.
That's fine. I'm okay with that. I want a pet T-Rex.
Anyways,
but they did say that a lot of the stuff that Ueda was trying to do with the PlayStation 3 was just impossible with that hardware. So it's like really hard for them to do. Maybe that's why I'm sure I'm not. There's been a ton of people who already said this, but I expect it to be a PlayStation 4 title, and that it might be because wasn't it first revealed at E3 anyway?
No.
Yes.
I thought it was like it was first revealed there. The first trailer because they had that little image.
Yeah, you're right. It was like leaked in like May or April-ish. Yeah, you're right. I think so.
Yeah, and that's not to say that the next time we'll see it will be then as well, because I think people are leaning a little bit away from these big events and just saying, okay, we're going to announce it like Nintendo does. So it's
I'm just confused as to what the dev for this game was, because remember like long time ago they said like in PlayStation, the Japanese PlayStation magazine, they're like, yeah, this game is coming out later this year. Like, why did they say that if it was coming out later this year unless they didn't have a good chunk done or something like that? Like, so I don't understand what is going wrong with the development of this game.
They had a special where Ueda was showing off like different parts of the game like to this camera crew at their computers in the studio. So it's like they were.
I feel like they just scrapped it and they're remaking this game multiple times, like again and again and again and again. Like,
it could be. It's hard to say because we didn't even really know what that game was anyway. So it's like all we had going off of was like a couple teaser trailers and showing some of the footage, but like so much of that game was so much unknown. Like even if they do reveal it, it's like what's our response going to be? Like, oh, this is what they did. It's like I have no idea what exactly the original one had and what this one changed. So it's like it's as long as that game, as long as something of that caliber exists, I hope. Because I also want to know what Ueda is actually going to be doing after he's done with this. It's like he's in an independent studio now.
He's a freelancer.
Yeah. Is he just going to go around and just helping out different projects? Because it's like he's been working on this game for like 7-8 years now. So
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's a lot of Last Guardian talk and RPG podcast. So
it's all good.
Yeah. All right. So I guess we'll call it on this one. So yeah, it's obviously September is going to be another big month. Then we're leading into the next couple of months with the PlayStation 4 coming out and Xbox One coming out in November. So it's the next few months is supposed to be pretty exciting. So finally we'll have a lot to talk about aside from yelling at each other. So
I don't like yelling at each other.
Yeah, you
Let's
do.
not do that. Let's not do that.
You should.
Broken family. It's broken bonds. So, all right, great. So, I'd like to thank our guests. I don't know where
Our staff.
Our staff, Adam, David, Simon. Thank you a lot for showing up.
I hate being here. I want to leave.
You
love
are
being
leaving.
here.
I love being
You're
here.
going to go drink yourself to sleep.
Yeah. Okay.
Go try logging into Final Fantasy.
Oh, I've actually been in for the past 20 minutes.
Ha!
What? Okay, it only took like an hour. All right, it only took an hour.
I don't care. Ha!
Whatever.
I don't know what
Time for me to go order Sora online.
You jerk.
Oh. Second volume up yet?
Wait, did we stop or are we still going?
No, we're still going.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Bye.
I just want to leave it up.
Bye.